Welcome back to another exciting edition of Rake Your Position, where four lifelong friends are living out the dream from the comfort of their chairs. I'm Aaron, the host, and we are all...
I'm Joe, the groundskeeper. Speaking of being back, spring training, pitchers and catchers reporting. I'd just like everybody to know that I'm in the greatest shape I've ever been in my life. So.
Literally what I was going to say, so thanks a lot for that.
No joke.
I mean, you can still say it, Corey.
That's pretty funny. Joe being in great shape.
Unless that was the joke, yeah.
Joe was in good shape.
I'm Jay Lee the Rover, and unlike last week, I get to kick it to Corey. Hi, Corey.
Hello, I'm Corey the Statman. I was going to say I'm in the best podcasting shape of my life, which is probably true. Better every day. That's what we strive for.
We are a month away from our birthday, too, fellas. We're almost there. See if we can make it.
From your birthday, or whose birthday?
Well,
The pod's birthday.
guys, I looked at the accounts and they're running pretty low. So
Yeah, if anybody
We'll have to make some budget cuts.
yeah,
we need some sponsorships, some financing.
yeah, maybe if anybody's got any wax-based products, we have some ideas.
We do.
Yeah.
We
Well,
can diversify that portfolio for you.
Multi-purpose.
we have the name of the product and what we want it to do. We just need someone to figure out how to make it happen.
That's the easy part. Everybody knows the hardest part about coming up with the product is figuring out the name, and we're already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron, before you kick this off,
Go for it, man.
I would like to send a huge shout out to after the events that kind of happened in KC the past few days with the shooting. We had one of my dearest friends, and you guys all know him. We played baseball with him, so he's a Saki baseball player. Neil was hanging out there, and Neil's fine. I don't want this to be a thing like something's wrong with Neil, but it's just a shout out to Neil, who was there and actually was what I would consider one of the first responders to help with someone who was injured there. So Neil, shout out to you, man. I love you. Glad you're good, but thanks for doing what you do, man. I don't know. It was kind of a weird situation, knowing that he was there, but knowing he's good, and just stepping up, and I don't know. It'd be tough to do, but kudos to you, man. Love you, dude.
Neil's beast.
Yep.
All right, guys. So we've got we always say we got a quick fun pod, and then we
Never.
keep talking. So we'll see. Our agenda, this is the smallest agenda we've ever had. I'll say that. How about that? We literally have 3 things on the agenda, and one was the intro. So we're already a third of the way done.
Boom.
So we're going to have some fun, though, as spring training has begun. Camps are open. Workouts have started. And baseball is in the air. Some could say love is in the air. Valentine's Day week as well. So Joe had this great thought of, hey, let's talk about why we love baseball.
It was
I
Jaylee.
did, but it's fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jared had
Jared,
this
it's hard to
wonderful
tell in
thought.
the text chat sometimes.
My bad.
You only
Yeah,
look the first letter.
Yeah, there's a J. A J said it. And so we just wanted to kick around
Thanks,
some
Joe.
personal stories of why we love baseball. So, Jared, why don't you start us off, man?
Well, this was Joe's idea.
Go ahead. I'll throw it to you first, though.
Wait, whose idea was it? Now you got me second guessing myself.
No, it was my idea. You just don't ever pay attention
Yeah.
in the.
So now I just kicked it to you and you lied to me.
And I kicked it to Joe, and he kicked it back. So,
A lot of kicking.
Are we
Fine.
playing soccer?
yeah, I just
Which
shot it.
ball?
We scored a goal.
Go,
Take your
go.
shirt off.
Anyway, yeah, I'll kick it off. I got 2 rather quick stories. When thinking about this, one was playing, and then one was like when I fell in love with the game. And I think part of the big reason why I played it. So the big reason is a bunch of my family are Cubs fans, unfortunately.
Rightfully
But-
so.
But my grandpa was always a Cardinals fan, and I always remember watching games with him when I go after school or staying late or whatever. So that was like when I first truly fell in love with the game itself, was watching games with him, and him helping me become a Cardinals fan. Thank you, Grandpa. But that was like my first love for the game, and then I think just those memories and doing that every day after school and like watching the games made me want to play it. And then obviously, like, I don't know, there's just something about being on the infield waiting for the ball or in the batter's box trying to get a hit, and just all the like small little things about the game that just make it so good. I think is why I love this game and why I like being on a podcast with you guys talking about the game, talking about all these players and giving our personal opinions on it. It's I know it's a lot of fun, and like I said, there's so much more behind the game than just like what we see on TV that I think we talk about us for almost daily about anything and everything. But playing it has a lot of good memories, but the biggest one would be watching all those games with my grandpa.
Like
That's
it.
beautiful.
Now I'm gonna kick it to Joe.
Ooh.
Oh, we missed.
Yeah.
OB.
You want to talk about poor soccer player? I have a pretty big list here. I feel like I might steal some of y'all's things, but we all had similar experiences. I guess as to why it's my favorite game. I think it's the best game. It's a little bit different than almost every other team sport. Most most other things are played on a rectangle that's the same size every place you go to, every stadium, every field. It's 100 yards long, or it's a soccer field, or it's basketball, all the same. Every stadium's different. We even had some great ideas on an earlier pod this year about some new some new stadiums.
Mm,
And there's some universality to it. 90 foot, 60 foot six. But there's so many differences to it.
Can you say more numbers just without any real context? Because everybody loves when you do that.
Well, I was trying to think of what are some other things. I'm sure the MLB has some like, you have to have 30 feet of foul room. You have to have no more than 420 feet in the outfield. But the 90 and the 66 is the only thing that I could think of. 90
60
foot base
feet, 6
pass,
inches.
60 feet, 6 inches. And that's been that way for a long time. Speaking of a long time, I think just the history of the game makes me think it's cooler. I don't know. We tend to think old things. We either tend to think old things are cool or old things are old and they need to go away, I think. But baseball's one that it's pretty much been the same for 150 years. Jay Lee?
no, I'm just doing the math on your anything here.
The old things are cool or old things need to go away. Those are the two options. Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, taking the extremes to it, I think.
I got you.
Um, it always meant good weather was here. Where we grow up, we legitimately have 4 seasons. So 3-ish of spring, summer, fall, winter. And there's definitely months when you're not playing baseball. We're not
And I
building
think we've all
domes.
played. I think we've all played baseball in those 4 seasons in one baseball season.
Yeah, yeah. We also live in a place where it can be all 4 seasons in 4 different days. Um, Being a kid and going to the stadiums, that was always memorable. Let's see if you remember this from an old podcast. That
Thank
is
you, Matthew
ingrained in my
Kaminsky.
head. Yes, thank you, organists all over the world. And I could keep rambling on about things. The last thing I'll say is a little man can be good at this game. You can't. The other major sports, at least in the United States, at least where we grew up, you have basketball, you have football.
Spud Webb
You better be a once in a generation athlete if you're under 6 foot tall and want to be like good at those sports.
Earl
But
Boykins.
baseball, did you say
That's two
Abe?
basketball players.
He just threw out Earl Boykins before Muggsy Bogues.
I
What's
said
wrong with
once
this
in a
man?
generational athlete. I didn't say it was impossible.
I named two. Muggsy Bogues. That's three.
That's different generations. That's one in each generation. Spud, then Muggsy, then Earl.
So I mean, actually, if you Google I am an average sized human being. Thank you. But for being, under 6 foot tall and being able to halfway play the game decent and see players at the highest level, my size, play decent, um, that was a huge appeal because I don't know, our brains think like that. You see people that look like you and you're automatically drawn to them even if maybe you shouldn't be, but that's some of the reasons I think it's the best game.
Who would you like to go?
Corey, you're up.
Okay. I appreciate the way that you put that because one of the things I did want to talk about was like representation, but the last thing anything needs is more white male representation in it. So you put it in a much better way than what I was coming up with as far as kind of size and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean I think this is going to be kind of echoing a little bit of what everybody's already said, but it's I I think I can say cursed. I was born into the curse of Cubs fandom, and it was just something that it was my dad, and it was something that we could do together. And he was a normal dad as I was growing up. He'd go to work and he'd come home kind of late. We eat dinner, and then like we could watch a Cubs game. And that was just kind of something we bonded over, and it's my interest in it just kind of took off from there. It was also, I was the 1998 home run race, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, seeing Sammy do his hops after he most of the time hit a home run. Um, Sometimes his premature hops were enjoyable as well. But and that team was a lot of fun. I actually pulled up on my other screen here the records of the Cubs as I was growing up, and I'm not sure why I stuck with it, to be honest. Because there were some bad years. Especially when I was really kind of getting into it, or I would have thought so. But and then also, I mean, I think just growing up in the area that we were from, like people cared more about baseball, Major League Baseball, I think, than they did any of the professional sports. Outside of that, I mean, it was predominantly Cardinal fans. And like people had their football teams and they'd have like their football watch parties on Sunday and whatnot. But like you could always talk about baseball with people and you talking about it. This is, us three on the bus going to and from high school baseball games. We're talking about Major League Baseball. Sorry, Joe. Us three being Aaron, Jared, and me.
Oh,
Because Joe
We're
had a
usually
real
talking
job.
about we're usually talking about the 95 Braves every bus trip usually.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And so I mean it was really cool because like I know my parents would always laugh when I'd like wake up and watch MLB Network and come home from school and watch MLB Network and they'd be like, "What? Like, you're just watching baseball game?" I was like, "Yeah, that was awesome." Um, but again, I also went to baseball games growing up. Like I never went to any other professional sport
yeah.
events. Like I went to NASCAR races, and that was I haven't I fell asleep at a NASCAR race, if you can believe that. Um, but it was much more common to go to baseball games. Um, so it is the nostalgia, and actually I do have a bone to pick with my dad. It's
Uh-oh.
November 2nd, 2016, maybe 11:30 at night.
120.
Chris Bryant throws across the diamond, Anthony Rizzo.
Falling over.
The Cubs win the World Series. I pick up the phone, I call my dad. Doesn't answer. Come on, Dad. Never called me back either. Did not talk to my dad. It's just like this is the first phone call I make as I call you. Like the Cubs win the World Series and I call you. Nothing. Didn't call me back, didn't answer his phone. Anyway.
He was talking to his favorite son
Yeah. Nobody else likes baseball.
in New York.
Yeah. But and then I like playing it. I think when I really fell in love with it the most as far as playing it is when I started catching. And then that was kind of a weird thing is I was like 9 years old and the guy who was catching got hurt and I was like, I'll do it, whatever. Went out there with like my normal glove because I couldn't hold up a catcher's mitt when I was 9. So it's too heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that just totally changed the game for me, and like catching and being involved. Like there is something definitely about the anticipation of being the fielder, but like it's a whole different perspective, obviously, because you're behind the hitter and everything is in front of you, and it's a little bit more of a kind of, I would equate it's obviously not as important as a quarterback in football, but I'm 4'1.5" tall. I'm not going to be a quarterback in football, but I would think that like, if I could have done that, I maybe would have liked that sport too, but that wasn't in the cards for me because of, I think, kind of my size and just kind of general athletic ability. Um, so catching was a way to kind of get that sort of involvement and kind of more. Again, you can't control too much, but you can control a little bit more than most of the people in the game. But yeah, nostalgia, going to the games, playing the games, and it's. I'll just keep going here. This is going to be a short pod, we promise. Um, Baseball. If you take somebody to a baseball game who doesn't understand baseball, it is one of the most boring things that they're ever going to do in their lives. Um, but it's like if you go to a baseball game with people that understand it and you understand it, and like you recognize the intricacies of it, kind of like what Jared mentioned, of there are so many little things going on that you don't that most people don't realize. And I think once you kind of get that understanding and get that realization, it makes the game much more exciting. And yeah, the ball is not in the play, or the ball is not in play near as much as it is in other sports, but there's certainly a strategic side to it. So uh, it's a hard thing to get started on, but I think once you get there, it is really enjoyable to watch and kind of understand the game a little bit more. But that's all I got now until I can think of something else.
I just wanted to let you guys know that when you Google average size male body, it is 5 feet 9 inches, Joe. So you're good. Corey,
I
sorry.
told you.
Yeah.
It also says 198 pounds, which seems like a lot for a 5'9" guy to carry around. So I don't know. Sorry, America. Yeah, I think two of the things you guys hit on is kind of what I thought. Like the fact that there's no stereotypical athlete that excels in baseball. So anybody can succeed, and you can do it in different ways. And
I feel like many times it's the non-stereotypical athlete
yeah,
that is your like best players.
There is
yeah,
actually
100%.
Jared, you mentioned a YouTube channel, Baseball Doesn't Exist, I think a week or two ago. He actually just released a video. I haven't watched it yet. But I think it's like,
It's good
does
stuff,
being
man.
fat make you better at baseball? And then just in the thumbnail, it just says yes. And so, yeah. And it's CC Sabathia, Pablo Sandoval, those kind of guys. But at the same time, you have the Jack guys that are also very good. Like you had Pablo Sandoval playing third base, and you had Alex Rodriguez playing third base, and both of those guys were very, very good at baseball. Anyway,
Yeah. And I was reading like some prospects, and they're talking about a couple different prospects, and they're like, oh, but he's 6'6", so we don't know if he's going to be able to continue to hit when he gets to majors. And it's like the two best hitters in the American League last year, Shohei 6'5", Aaron Judge 7 feet 10 inches, whatever he is. I mean, so yeah. And then we're talking
7
Altuve.
feet 10.
We were talking Altuve last week, where he's listed at 5'6", and that's probably a big lie. And so it's just it was fun, and it was something just from a young age. Like I started late. I didn't play until I was 8 years old. I didn't do anything before that. Thrown on to Doug Barr's Dodgers team at 8 years old, never playing baseball before. But it was just something that just I enjoyed right away, and kind of came a little more natural to me. I was never nervous like I was. Like Joe can testify to my basketball days at that same time, how nervous I was and how phenomenal of a dribbler I was. If someone started guarding me, I got terrified. But I never had that issue with baseball. Just loved it. And it is the best sport out of all the major sports we have, the big three. I've never been to a soccer match, but baseball, basketball, football, it's the best one that is better in person than on TV for me. You go to an NFL game live. I've never been to the Super Bowl, so I'm sure that's a different beast. That's a whole other category. But you go to a regular season football game, there's TV timeouts, there's all these extra timeouts, players just standing on the field. It drags up. What was that? Did you guys hear that?
Yeah,
That
I have no
Joe?
idea what that was.
That was Joe.
I started playing our last video. My bad.
Oh, gotcha.
I
But
was like,
baseball,
oh
just
no.
you can see it better live. You go to an NBA game, you might get stuck in the bleachers and everybody, way up there, and everybody looks so small you can't see what's going on. So, but baseball, no matter where you're sitting, it just looks better, and the atmosphere is better live than sitting in your living room. So, yeah, just something I've always enjoyed playing. It's better live, like Corey's talking about, where we grew up. The Rams came and went, but other than that, Chicago had football and basketball. Nobody else around us did. And so everybody was invested in baseball year round, it seemed like.
I've never had a bad seat watching a
Yeah.
live baseball game. I've had bad seats watching anything on a rectangle field. They get down to the other end, you're out of the game.
Yeah, no idea. Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it. And like you guys both alluded to, just the thinking involved, the anticipation. People who don't love baseball say, well, that's boring. And I'm thinking, man, just think about all the things you got to think about with every pitch, and you may not do anything. It's like it's a team sport, but there are so many moments where you are all by yourself and you have to do the job. No one's around to save you. And with other sports, your teammates can pick you up. If you get beat on the drive, teammates rotate over to double team. If you do something on the football field, you got 10 other guys that can make a play. Like if you get burnt deep, but the quarterback gets sacked, it doesn't matter. Or whatever. But baseball field, it's so many moments where it is you do or die. And you have to step up, perform. So I love it. Any other final thoughts, guys, on why we love the game?
Yeah, I think I'll get a little sentimental again here. Just the friendships you build. I mean, I played baseball for pretty much 4 years with Corey, and now I talk to him almost every single day. Cooney was my coach, which then made me a friend with Joe. And that's why we're doing this podcast because we like to talk baseball. But just being in the
And you were my
dugout.
assistant coach.
True, and I was your assistant coach. But just being in the dugout and hanging out with the guys, and like you said so much individual things to do. So if you're in the dugout, you're chit chatting, you're pumping your guys up, you're cheering them on and all that fun stuff. But you just build that camaraderie, and I don't know. There's just a lot of fun times. As much as I joke about sitting the bench or being in the dugout, there's just a lot of fun times that I can look back on and be like, that was a blast. So I don't know. I think there's always there's love everywhere for the game of baseball.
Yeah. I mean, the name of our podcast originates from sitting in the dugout, but that is arguably almost more fun than actually playing the game. Like,
Yeah,
just like sitting and hanging out, just like eating some floor seeds and just talking to the dudes. You'd love to be playing too, but like it's not a bad second choice of things to be doing with your afternoon. But it's the
Man,
best.
I just said something. Oh man, I think this is good. I said something pop into my head because I had a lot of time on that bench. I think
Yeah.
baseball's got to be, with the pace of play being slower and some downtime, it gives everybody a chance to like come up with like sayings or nicknames for the players or things to heckle with. Like basketball, football, you're not gonna like be shooting. I mean, you can talk smack, but the pace of the game is so much faster. With baseball, think about how many weird things you all said together as a team, how everybody had a nobody was their actual name. Everybody had a nickname. The stuff you would yell from the dugout, the stuff you would yell to the outfielder from second base, vice versa. So yeah, kind of to Corey's point, just the fact that you're on a team, I always say that is the funnest part. And then with baseball, you can even feel that way more because you have that in between time to, you know,
Sure.
be a kid, be young and have fun.
I just thought of one last thing I want to add to this conversation. I think the fact that it's not timed
Mm-hmm.
is the coolest thing about it too. Like you literally always have a chance to come back. And we've seen some crazy comebacks. Like that college team last year that scored 7 runs without getting a hit in the ninth inning or whatever it was. you know,
Mm-hmm.
like there's a point in every basketball game, there's a point in every football game or soccer match where it's over before it's over. Like it's impossible because you're going out of time. In baseball, you don't have that. And along those lines, like what makes soccer so exciting is it's so hard to score, and so they're precious. You see that with a little bit of football too, but that's what makes baseball. Every run is a huge thing. It's so hard to do. So
Little
great talk, guys.
little trivia to throw in here at the end. Does anybody know when the first World Series was played? Listeners?
1887.
1902.
I was gonna say my brain went to 1892.
Well, Aaron is the closest, and he is very close. The first World Series was in 1903.
Oh,
1903. Like I said.
Cubs. Was that Cubs?
I don't.
No.
There were some weird teams back then,
Yeah.
but it was it's the National League versus the American League first time.
Mm-hmm.
Corey, you said you skipped a podcast last week. You were doing something important, but you said you did listen.
He said he listened to it.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. So he's gonna know this answer. When was the first organized game played? And I need month, I need day, and I need year.
And the time. When did it start?
Friday at 1:20.
In Chicago.
I'm sure
Yeah,
it
in
was a day
Chicago.
game, but first game 6/19/1846.
Okay.
What 2 years were there not a World? So the World Series started in 1903. What 2 years did not have a Super Bowl, a World Series?
1994.
That's one.
I don't know the other one.
It wasn't
one was-
95 because we know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, that's a tainted victory there. coming
Expos
back
would
from
still exist
everybody.
if we had one in 94, I think. But
Oh man, we would not be talking about the Braves ever if 94 happened.
The other one not to
I don't
take
know.
place was 1904, when I want to say it was Boston versus Pittsburgh, and the owner of Boston or whatever team it was didn't think that the other team was any good, so he's just like, "No, we're not going to play you."
That's a bold strategy.
So that
I
was
like
the 2 years with no World Series.
Mahomes next year is going to get the Super Bowl. Be like, nah, we got this.
quick, speaking of dugout chatter, baseball. We had a lot of fun at baseball. Softball dugout chatter is at
Too much.
a different level.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not
Too
sure
much.
I'm not sure it's a better level, but it's at a different level for sure. So I did just want to they have maybe a little bit too much time on their hands, but it's keeps them entertained.
that
But,
does. Well, we're moving on to things that we love about this spring training. We're all thinking about different headlines, stories that we are intrigued to follow. I'm not for sure. We haven't talked about this, so I'm guessing some of them are going to be about our favorite teams, but I'm intrigued to see what you guys are interested in following. So, Joe, why don't you start us off this time?
Ooh, man, you're gonna have to go to somebody else because I'm gonna have to think of something as they're
All
talking.
right, Jared,
I
you
ain't
got
really
something?
nothing.
Jared was shaking his head, so we'll kick it to
So
Jared.
you're
This
saying-
kicking it off, guys, is going well. This is spectacular.
I burnt through all my notes in that first segment.
We're like the 49ers fumbling
Your
all our
whole-
specials.
Nice. Your whole page was just for that one segment?
Yeah.
of notes?
Okay. But being that I'm dealing with 160 IQ, I've already got something. So here, I'll jump in.
no, please after you.
So
No, please go ahead.
2023. Wowzers. Some say there's a magnetic force in outer space or something to make all these jokes happen at one time. during one-
Nobody said that.
Some do.
Backyard Banshee said that once.
They all have the same last name.
If you got 7 voices in one head, that's still more than one.
That's 7 votes, baby.
So anyway, I'll just go with the NL Central, kind of seeing how that's going to shake out. You have the winners of it last year kind of dumping players and not filling their spots with the best. You have a couple teams that are young.
Trying to get
Not-
AARP memberships with their starting rotation.
I ain't to them yet. Be
Oh,
quiet.
okay, sorry.
You have one team that's in the most populous city in 90% of the country, and they decided, oh, we can't spend any money. They've signed nobody. They're going to be terrible. Wait for my predictions. That's Chicago. And then you have the Cardinals, who have like their average age is 62. All these veterans that, I hope they got some special sauce, some super cream, and some MJ juice in the off season. So maybe our Redbirds can take it back, but be interesting. The NL Central is so different. Veteran teams, young teams, some low impact signings, some teams dumping their stars because they're getting close to blah 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 blah. That's the best I could come up with like 14 and a half seconds of thinking. So
It's been on the list.
we didn't even have
Joe's a
we
big
didn't even have
rocker.
we
Go
did
ahead.
not have an agenda until
I understand,
20
but the
minutes
whole time
ago.
we've been talking about the first one, it's been there. You could have been thinking about it while everybody else has been talking.
I want to hear what you have, and I bet it's
I
not
think
as good
your-
as what I just spewed
I think
out of
your
my
IQ
mouth.
just dropped 100 points there.
So Joe's a rocker at heart, big '80s metal guy, hard rock. We look at these bands, we love listening to these bands. They sound great, and then they get the great idea of getting the band back together one last time and trying to run it back a few years. And you get excited, pay the big bucks, and show up, and you see a bunch of
And-
old, fat, balding guys
And
who
there's
can't do the
Vince
job
Neil.
anymore. That's kind of like the Cardinals.
Hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see. The
didn't-
Cardinals could run it back one more time, win that Central, but it's going to be interesting because Goldsmith won the MVP 2 years ago.
Yeah, and then dropped 150 points across all of his stats.
Arenado couldn't play third base all of a sudden. It was weird. It was
yeah.
weird.
They
Magnets.
needed more time in between pitches to get ready.
That could be. So Lance Lynn's coming back to put the band back together to fix it. Corey, what do you got for us? We'll go yin and yang here with Cardinals Cubs, I'm sure.
Kind of. I didn't have too much to talk about the Cubs. Partially though. I mean, I think this year more than others, we've seen more foreign players come. Like it's a greater number, and I think a little bit higher. Like Tanaka came over, and it seemed like kind of the only guy that came over that year, and Daisuke came over, and it seemed like he's maybe the only guy that time. We've had guys come over, but it's been kind of singular signings. We had the outfielder with the Giants, whose name escapes me right now. I'm sorry, sir. Sure. And then Yamamoto with the Dodgers, Imanaga with the Cubs. There's been a few other kind of lower profile guys come over. Those guys in the past have been pretty hit or miss. Daisuke, I think, never really quite ended up being what people hoped it would be. Tanaka had a very good few years. I think the longevity wasn't quite there with him. So I'm kind of looking to see how these guys perform when they come over. I mean, especially Yamamoto after signing the deal that he did, 12 years, $325 million is the biggest contract for anybody who's never played in Major League Baseball before. I assume. I didn't check that. But just hopefully, I mean, his numbers from when he played in Japan are absolutely gross. So just kind of seeing how that translates. Along with that, I a thing that always happens, especially in bush ball spring training, not to bring it back to that, but the prayers for the spring training sims of what injuries are going to fall here. So it's always and you're a free agent you signed for 7 years. He tears his rotator cuff and he's out for the year. So um injuries, in kind of these ramp up games, we've already seen, I think, some of them that have come out in the past 2 or 3 days. Kyle Bradish, who was previously the Orioles' basically best starter last year. He was their best starter last year. Kind of came out of nowhere. He's going to at least start the year on the IL because he sprained his UCL. Yes, sir.
I just saw a stat that he had the lowest ERA in the American League after the All-Star break last year. I didn't realize how good he was.
Yeah, he's awesome. So it sounds like it's gonna be okay, but like I think he strained it even just like ramping up in January. It's like you're hearing about guys that have gotten hurt just, preparing for the season, and now they're going to get into, increasingly more strenuous baseball activities. I don't think that's I don't think that leads to teams getting in. This is the third thing I want to talk about, so sorry if I'm taking your guys' things, but I don't think injuries at this point in time are going to lead to teams that were previously out on some of these bigger free agents getting into conversations with them. I feel like if they were going to be involved in them, they would have been involved in them already. But at some point, these guys do have to sign, I would think. I don't know if the injuries are going to facilitate their numbers going up, but if the Dodgers lose a pitcher, like who cares if they spend another ungodly amount of money on one of these guys? But um, so yeah, injuries, foreign players. Um, see how that goes in the next month and a half.
Did you see the younger Sasaki, who's 17, went to Stanford?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't sign with the NPB. He's going to college, and then he's going to get drafted in 3 years. So he'll be available at 20. That's
a big
unique
middle finger to the NPB, I think.
Yeah, it's a very unique way of doing it. You are seeing them come over a little bit younger, so I'd be interested in checking some of those guys' age. Because Tanaka had a good 8 or so year run, but yeah, I don't know how old he was when he started. Matsui, I feel like he was older because all these guys were established over there as the best before they came. But Yamamoto's 25.
Yeah, Tanaka's still pitching, I think, in Japan. So he's 35 now. So
so he's a little bit younger, yeah.
20,
when he came.
2014, he would have been 26.
Okay. I always thought he was older than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of these guys we've seen it translate more than once. If you're good over there, you'll be good over here. Is it the same good? Close, but maybe not exactly. But they've been worth the investments more often than not. And so teams are scouting over there, looking. Everybody's involved over there nowadays.
I mean, Ichiro is the gold standard. Obviously, I don't think pitchers have hit quite as good as hitters have. Like Matsui and I think Matsui's he's obviously not anywhere near Ichiro, but he might be the second best Japanese hitter that I can remember off the top of my head, at least. But yeah, it would be nice to see. I mean, Tanaka got 7th in Cy Young his 3rd year over here, but 2-time All-Star, 5th in Rookie of the Year voting. So he had some good years, but I mean, he's out of the league at 31.
He blew his UCL and kept pitching.
Yeah.
So like all he's got, Daisuke got hurt a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Darvish has kept it going.
Two Tommy John surgeries already. So yeah, I forgot about you. He's done pretty well too for himself.
What do you got, Jared? What spring headline or story are you following?
Well, I think Corey covered it all.
You're welcome.
All right. See you guys next week.
All right. Don't forget to rake your position. No, I think for me, there's a few I'm going to touch on, but then I'm going to go back to one that Joe alluded to a little bit. I think the one that I guess isn't even like spring. It's more like I'm excited to see how it's going to pan out in the season, but the AL East, like that's going to excite me, I think, for a while. The Yankees are coming back in a vengeance. The Orioles are just getting better. There's talks of Holiday making the opening day roster, so I'm excited to see how well he does in the spring. I think the Rays will either be, I'm going to say
They'll
good,
be
or they're
great.
going to
Yeah,
or
I'm
they're gonna
not betting
start
against
off
them this
hot,
year. Learned
or
my
they're going to
lesson.
start off hot and fall off. But so that'll be an interesting division. But the big thing for me is I think I'm going to be the optimistic Cardinals fan here, right, Joe?
First
Well,
place,
you don't
baby.
you don't
You be
have
the
the
bad
other
cop.
option.
You be the bad cop. I'll be the good cop. Um, I think what excites me is I know I was just, I would say, lukewarm about the Sonny Gray signing, but apparently he's been an instant, like, just fan favorite clubhouse guy already. He was throwing his bullpen the other day, and there was a picture of just like everybody stopping and watching him. Apparently helping out a lot of the younger pitchers with like types of grips to throw or what to throw in certain situations. Yeah, go ahead.
They have younger pitchers than Sonny Gray.
Well, you know what I mean. People that aren't going to make the roster that should.
Oh,
Yeah, Corey.
Sonny Gray, 5'10", 195. So,
there you go.
it could
Checks
be us,
out.
guys.
195. That's the average. That's what it said. Okay.
People carry weight a little bit different sometimes, if it's muscle.
Yeah, if they probably
no,
work out, it's
no.
probably all muscle than just.
I got this.
Anyway, and then just the younger guys. I'm ready to see Jordan Walker's second season. Ready for Mason Wynn to get a whole off-season spring training under his belt there. Excited to see Tommy Edman play center field, I think.
Infielders in the outfield.
Hey, love it. It's what the Cardinals do best.
You can play infield, you can play outfield. That's what every scout I've ever talked to says.
Oh, weird. And then obviously I think Arenado and Goldschmidt are going to bounce back. Like there's just, go ahead. There's a lot of questions during this segment.
So, Corey, the stat man, the armchair times.
Yeah, go ahead.
How many games do you think it is until Arenado's playing left field?
Next question.
Okay.
How many
Goldschmidt.
Cardinals does that put in the Hall of Fame when he goes in with a bird on his hat?
Next question.
Okay, next.
Did you know Sonny Gray? The Cardinals really did a disservice here because Sonny Gray previously had an ERA of 5.29 against the Cardinals, so they're taking a pitcher that they could have hit off the board for them to do good against. So has anybody wrote an article about that? Because I'd like to throw that in there. You need to target guys that you don't hit good off of.
Can't
You need
beat
to leave
them.
the guys you hit good
Sign
off
them.
of.
You're the stat man. Write that article.
You should have been like, hey, other NL Central teams, you should sign Sonny Gray because we've got a 5.29 or he has a 5.29 ERA against us.
Yeah, what's Oliver Perez doing these days, Joe? Braves need to go get him.
Jared,
I bet his
I have
left
no further
arm's still pretty
questions. I'd
loose.
like to. The floor is yours.
No, I think that covers it. Got everything I wanted out of this.
Hey, speaking of
armchair times, that was a nice touch. Go ahead.
anxious to see Mason Wynn get a season under his belt. What does that
my gosh.
mean? I mean, we got all these sayings, and sometimes they don't even make no sense. Like, man, I gotta get 6 weeks of prep under my belt. What is that? What are you putting under your belt? Your gut? I don't know.
I got a lot of seasons
Listeners-
under my belt.
Yes, Corey.
Jared, I just wanted to again ask you: have you heard any news out of the Mariners camp lately? Do you have anything to report from the Pacific Northwest?
No, that line has been dead, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I made some predictions last week, but they obviously have not happened. So we're still sitting where we're sitting.
Cool. Sonny Gray has an ERA of 3.04 against the Mariners in his career. So
There you
that's
go.
good. If we
When you
face
face
them,
the
we're good.
Mariners in the World
Yeah.
Series.
yeah.
Game one starter, Sonny Gray.
Maybe that's where they're at.
Yeah. Playing
Most
chess,
starting to
we're
make a lot
playing
of
checkers.
sense now.
Yeah, there it is. He's been prepping for the World Series this whole time. Just
Against the
forgot to
Mariners,
get there.
who are trying to win 53% of their games.
Yeah, I get you there, man. Well, I guess I'll share my headline. I was looking at, I thought I was going to talk about a rookie prospect or something. Jared mentioned Jackson Holiday. That'd be a blast if he's the opening day second baseman. But there's so many guys that I don't. Maybe when we start making our predictions, some of these names will pop up because there's a lot of young guys that are expected to be opening day starters, not just on the roster, but in the opening day lineup. Holiday, Cheerio, Keith both signed contracts before they even got to the bigs. So it'll be interesting. But as far as the Braves go, my Braves storyline I'm most intrigued about. I think the lineup, the rotation is probably set. The lineup, of course, is set. But I'm just intrigued to watch the pitchers battle out. Is Sale going to be healthy? I didn't realize he made 20 starts last year. I didn't realize he even pitched that much. He had a 4.30 ERA and 102 innings. His K rate was still 11 per 9, which matches his career, which we all know Joe is what? The greatest K rate of all time. And he did that again last year. His walk rate was the same, a little over 2 walks. And if you lower the K rate to include Spencer Strider, Spencer would be number 1 and Sale would be number 5. So it's like, if Sale's healthy, we got the 2 best 1-2 strikeout combo in the league, plus Max Fried, who's a Cy Young candidate waiting to happen if he gets 30 starts. Morton has made 3 straight years of 30 starts. He's actually last 5 seasons that have been full seasons. He started 30 games. And then Elder, I was looking at Bryce Elder. He's getting a lot of heat. Like, people are talking, is he going to have to battle for the 5th spot or not? Before the All-Star break last year, he had a 2.97 ERA and was named the All-Star game, and then had a 5.11 the second half. And he's already talked about how he got tired, didn't realize how long the season was. We're going to go back and count how many words per minute everybody's talked this pod, and it's going to be like Corey 89.2% of the time has been talking. And so he could just wake back up when I'm talking.
But I talk about interesting things.
Yeah, okay. So the interesting thing will be Waldrip and AJ Smith-Shawver, the only 2 top 100 prospects the Braves have. Both blazed through the minors last year. AJ Smith-Shawver made a few major league appearances, but Waldrip threw 130 innings between Florida and University of Florida and then the Braves system. So a college pitcher flying through the minors isn't that big of a deal. So both of them are ready if any of these guys do get hurt. But a lot of talk about the Dodgers, and I still think the Braves are the best team on paper. So we'll see how the best team on paper can do when the first pitch is thrown.
That sounds a lot like something 3 pretty smart guys said one time whenever there was a 4th not so smart guy not here. About how the Braves are better than the Dodgers.
I'm liking it.
Wow. Well, really just
Who
brought
said
the
that?
mood down. We did when we
you
talked,
guys
we spent a whole
being
pod
rude
talking
and
about how good the Braves
sleeping
were.
and not interacting with me.
Well, we don't know any of those people you just said.
Chris Sale, the greatest strikeout pitcher of all time.
I feel like I should.
That's the one person Joe knew who you said.
Joe knew the stat. You should know the stat.
I knew who Nolan Ryan is, so you better settle down. Settle down. That's all I'm saying.
This is LeBron Michael Jordan debate again.
I knew
what
who
makes
Nolan
you the
Reinbold
greatest?
was too.
The best at doing it when you're doing it, or the one who can do it the longest?
Well, I think probably it's the best at doing it while you're doing it. Because after a certain point,
how many no hitters does Chris Sale have? Oh, Nolan
everybody
Ryan
gets kind of tired.
How many Cy Youngs does Nolan Ryan have?
Speak for yourself, Corey. I don't know how many
0.
Cy Youngs he has.
0.
You want a Cy Young on your resume or 7 no hitters?
I want a healthy Chris Sale.
Also, Jose Altuve had 8 All-Star
he's
appearances,
wanted that
and
the
Rogers
past 6
Hornsby had
years.
0.
Hey, you don't get any hardware for no hitters.
Yeah, and you don't get any software if you don't have a computer. What are we talking about?
I think you just made my point.
And the point is, if Sailor Morton go down, Braves are covered. No weaknesses. World Series or bust. That's what Spencer Strider said today. I love it. And his
I think that
mustache was on point, by the way.
I would say that there are 3 teams that are World Series or bust this year, at least. Uh, so it's the Braves, Dodgers, Yankees, because like half of the Yankees roster is not under contract after this year.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're in the conversation. But speaking of why we love baseball, it doesn't really matter what the paper looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen, especially when you have the best record in the league and then you don't get any advantages in the playoffs or something like that. I forget what you complained about that, but
I don't complain. I bring facts.
in a very complaining way.
You're right. We love the parody in baseball. We talk about it all the time, how awesome it is until it's one of our teams. Then it's the stupidest thing in the world. But that's what makes baseball great. Like anybody can beat anybody at any given time. If Jordan's on the court, Bulls are winning. If Brady or Mahomes is on the field, they're winning, unless Brady's playing Mahomes. Then Mahomes isn't winning. Eli's on the field, Brady's not winning. So, yes. But in baseball, anybody can beat anybody. So what's best?
Nope.
What?
You know why? Because Jordan was on the baseball field and he did not win.
True. You didn't specify. You just said if Brady's, or you just said if Jordan's on the
court.
Like you said court. So some people from England might call it the old baseball court.
And the Bulls didn't win when Jordan wasn't on the court. They're still trying to figure that out. All righty, guys. Well, hey, that wraps up our pod. I think we're still at an hour, so let's get out of here. Any final thoughts or comments? This is episode 44. I believe our 1-year birthday will also be episode 50, guys. I don't know if you guys have been looking ahead that far, but I was trying to do the math in my head. I think episode 50 will be the 1-year mark, the week right before the season starts. So that'll be awesome.
We got something special planned.
That's the groundkeeper's job. Don't give out our secrets, Jared. Sure we do. Yeah. By the time this gets on YouTube 5 days from now, we will.
Oh yeah, we totally do.
But we got a fun spring. We'll do some previews and predictions because we're phenomenal at that, as you've seen for a year now. And yeah, we'll get ready for our 1-year anniversary.
Corey, am I allowed to pick?
Are we calling it an anniversary or birthday? Oh, that's a good question.
I think you can pick Shohei this year.
You can pick it for Cy Young, Jared. We'll let you.
Yes.
Go ahead and put it down, Corey.
Guys.
Jared's got Shohei for Cy Young.
I had all of our already locked in predictions written down somewhere. I'm gonna have to find that. But
yeah, we have made some bold predictions already this offseason before it was even done. So, all righty, guys. Well, I think that's it. Robert Nero, got anything to say? All right. Well, until next time, guys, don't forget to
rate your position. Is it multiple positions or just position?
It depends how long you go.
Nice, Corey.
Stop record.
That was a good one.